Tonight, a CBC I-team investigation, how the province is moving forward with a $1 billion irrigation project, even though a feasibility study is not complete. Also, dry and windy conditions make it hard for firefighters to contain a large grass fire south of Saskatoon, one that left behind considerable damage. Plus, Jacob Wasserman's dream of representing Canada on the world stage is now a reality.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, August 21st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. A Government of Saskatchewan mega project that's been in the works since April of 2021 is going ahead. The Lake Diefenbaker Irrigation project will cost more than $1 billion. Critics say the province owes taxpayers an explanation. The I-Team's Jeff Leo has more.
The Saskatchewan government says it is moving forward with a $1.15 billion irrigation project. Now, that is despite the fact there appear to be a lot of unknowns about this project. The province still doesn't have a completed feasibility study. That's a review that was supposed to have been done to examine whether this project is actually a good use of public money. Now, some critics are worried that the government may be launching a poorly thought out mega project that'll cost taxpayers dearly but will only benefit a few.
I suspect that the ones that would benefit tend to be larger farms and more prosperous farms.
The government's planning to put its irrigation project here in the Lake Diefenbaker area, where these irrigation canals already exist. They were built way back in the 1970s, but were never completed and have barely been used. So the plan is to fix them up and put more infrastructure around them and then use them to irrigate about 90,000 acres of nearby farmland. The government says irrigation will help some farmers increase their yield, and it'll also help them grow specialty crops like hemp or potatoes. So one local farmer says Saskatchewan already does have a lot of irrigated acres, and he points out that very few people are actually growing potatoes or hemp right now.
The statistics don't prove out that they're making headway on these specialty crops or these high-value crops. And one of the questions I asked at those open houses is how much of that specialty crop has to be grown to make that $1 billion investment make sense? Nobody answers that question.
The province says it plans to cost share the $1.15 billion with farmers who tap into the irrigation system. But we still don't know how many farmers will take part or what they'll have to pay to tie into the system and what will actually be returned to taxpayers from this deal.
The capital gains that comes from the government's investment in those farms doesn't come back to the taxpayer. It goes into the pockets of those 200 farmers.
Years ago, the provincial government hired an accounting firm to do a feasibility study, but the province says it still doesn't have a completed report.
Since 2020 and the announcement, they've commissioned millions of dollars in engineering, economic, environmental studies, and so on. And we've yet to see any of those studies. And so certainly I think a proper consultation should imply that as studies are conducted, they're released to the public and the public has a chance to review and comment.
This was originally announced as a $4 billion project to irrigate 500,000 acres, and that's what the feasibility study was originally based on. The Saskatchewan government assumed at the time that the federal government would kick in millions of dollars, money that it wouldn't have to pay back. But that's not happening. Instead, Ottawa's just offering loans. So the province says it's been forced to shrink the project and redesign it. And it says that's why the feasibility study's not done. Now, despite this change, the province says it wants to start building next year. There's still no word on when that feasibility study might be done or if the public will ever get to see it. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.
An effort to rename Dewdney Avenue failed at Regina City Council this afternoon. Council voted 3-7 to reject the motion by Councillor Dan LeBlanc. The major artery runs east to west in Regina. It's named after Edgar Dewdney, who was appointed Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories in 1881. He also helped with the creation of Canada's reserve system and residential schools. Though there have been discussions for years, the motion to remove Dewdney's name from the avenue was first tabled back in June. The city had said the renaming process, if it was approved, could cost millions. The inquest into the death of Nicole La Fontaine entered its third and final day in Regina. The 31-year-old died while staying at the YWCA last summer. The jury has delivered its recommendations, and most surround intake procedures and mental health, but also a suggestion to increase staffing for the Saskatchewan Health Authority and YWCA. Laura Sharpaletti has more from the final day of the inquest.
I'm emotionally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. Very tired. I'm hurt. Very hurt at this time.
It's been an extremely painful week for Valerie La Fontaine. She has sat through her daughter Nicole's inquest in Regina, trying to learn more about how she died. But she's also reminded of what happened to her other daughter, Andrea. She also died of a fentanyl poisoning while living at the YWCA just 7 months before Nicole.
Nicole and Andrea were one was, the other was kind of thing. They were always together. They were the best of friends to each other. You know, they shared everything, including this addiction.
On July 22nd, 2023, Nicole La Fontaine fell 5 stories out of a YWCA building in downtown Regina. Witnesses said she was experiencing psychosis at the time. She was known to have addiction and mental health issues.
I need some answers as to what happened to her. I had to wait a full year, over a year, to find out what happened to Nicole. All I was told for the full year, oh, she jumped out of a window, she fell out of a window. But I didn't know the circumstances around it.
On Monday, a coroner told the jury an autopsy had detected trace amounts of a variety of drugs in La Fontaine's system. That coroner was one of 16 witnesses that testified. The jury heard how La Fontaine's roommate had complained to staff that she was talking to herself in bed. Staff on duty that night testified that before La Fontaine went out the window, she had not been exhibiting signs of harm to herself or risk of harming others. YWCA staff answered questions about bed checks, why the windows weren't closed, and other things that could have prevented La Fontaine's death.
I personally, as the leader of the organization, feel a huge amount of accountability and responsibility for Nicole's death. I feel that way every time that we have a death. I feel that way when we have a near death, and I think for me it's the catalyst that pushes me forward for change.
Coomber Benson testified that the floor La Fontaine was staying on was only approved for women experiencing homelessness. It's not intended for mental health and addictions support. The CEO of the Y wants in-house mental health and nurse practitioner staff, but needs more funding. She hopes to use the jury's recommendations to add strength to the YWCA's perspective. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
The issues swirling around the Saskatchewan Health Authority's new payroll software continue. Some people are still not getting paid properly. Today, the opposition released a leaked internal memo from the Saskatchewan Health Authority. In it, the SHA acknowledges delays in physician payments. The blame is placed on the implementation of the new Administrative Information Management System known as AIMS. The Health Authority apologizes for the inconvenience, but the NDP wants the province to investigate what's become a recurring issue.
The letter confirms that doctors in our province are also being shortchanged when it comes to pay because of these errors in the system.
The cost of this train wreck program has tripled from $86 million to at least $240 million. If someone in the private sector went 3 times over budget and still didn't deliver, they wouldn't be patting on themselves on the back, they would be looking for work.
The opposition says incidents like these are reasons why Saskatchewan is struggling to recruit new medical staff. It also says our province has some of the worst retention rates for healthcare workers in the country. The city of Saskatoon has laid out a funding plan for its ambitious downtown event and entertainment district. The plan will go to Saskatoon City Council next week, and if it's approved, it could mean the city is nearing the end of its grocery list to cook up a nearly 16,000-seat arena. Right now, it is expected to cost $1.2 billion, and the city's plan is to cover somewhere from $354 to $424 million. City administration's big seller on the project, the funding does not include a direct increase to the general property tax rate. However, that does not mean the City Council will stick with it or change it in the future.
The council has the power to make whatever decision they determine, but I would say is if the funding plan is seeing the revenues that it is expected to, that it should be a non-issue, but that would be my sense.
City Council will meet 1 week from today on August 28th to consider the new plan. If accepted, it could mean increased taxes on Saskatoon accommodations and ticketed events. A looming work stoppage is threatening to shut down rail traffic across Canada just after midnight. There are growing calls from the feds to intervene, but the Prime Minister says it's up to the railways and the union to come to terms.
My message is very straightforward. It is in the best interest of both sides to continue doing the hard work at the table to find a negotiated resolution.
Both Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railways are on the brink of locking out more than 9,300 workers combined. The union representing the engineers, conductors, and yard workers say safety issues and working conditions are the key sticking points. The federal government has already rejected a call for binding arbitration. A rail shutdown would stop the shipment of about $1 billion a day worth of goods in this country. 5 news conferences in 5 cities, all at the same time. Representatives of the provincial government fanned out across Saskatchewan today with a message for Ottawa: restore $17 million of funding for job training programs that was cut from the last federal budget. That money came from a pot that was transferred to provinces. They, in turn, divvy that up among community organizations to run jobs and skills training programs. The feds say Saskatchewan still gets $66 million annually under these labor market transfer agreements, but the province has been using its own money to cover the clawback and ensure programs continue. About 7,000 people access those programs right across the province.
But really what this is about is having a very clear and emphatic message for the federal government that they need to reinstate this funding, because this impacts communities right across the province, from PA, Moose Jaw, Saskatoon, Regina, North Battleford, Meadow Lake, La Loche. This is almost every community in our province that are being impacted by this.
A spokesperson for the Federal Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages says this is not a cut. Instead, they say it's an expiry of a top-up funding agreement from 2017-2018. They say this is the same base funding as previous years. For those of us with seasonal allergies, this video alone is enough to make us sneeze. A dry, dusty, hot day out on the combine for a lot of farmers. These ones just outside Regina. And while it has been dry here, there's some areas seeing some active and wet weather too. Tyreek Reed will have your forecast when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A grass fire south of Saskatoon that burned for nearly 12 hours has destroyed millions of dollars of property. The city's fire department says a combine in a wheat field north of Highway 11 likely started the blaze on Tuesday. Many 911 calls came in just before 4 o'clock, and dry, windy conditions made it difficult to stop the fire. RCMP helped with evacuations with farms further to the north and east to keep people safe. The fire burned over 300 hectares before it was put out early this morning. Saskatoon's deputy fire chief says local farmers brought in heavy equipment to help.
A lot of that area is wheat field, so they were able to go through the wheat field, knock it down, and create a fire break for us so that the fire wouldn't spread. So they helped out from that aspect and helped out circle some of the brush that's out there to prevent the fire from getting those brush. Once it gets in that brush, it's very difficult for us to contain, so we just tend to let it burn out, so they're helpful in that aspect. Also, we have limited water supply out there. There's no fire hydrants. We did have some resources. A private company had a trailer with about 30,000 gallons of water, so they were able to provide that to help us out later on in the fire, so that was of great help as well.
Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the fire did destroy a home, multiple structures, and vehicles valued up to $3 million in total. Hogan says it was a fast-moving fire from north to south, and because of its size and conditions in the densely treed area, he says it was really difficult to protect all the property. There are still some hot spots and burning bales, but Hogan says it's in an area that is contained.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Employee pricing is on now.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. And it has been a wet and dry day, and we do need the rain falling out there. Maybe not the lightning strikes, though.
Oh, definitely. I don't think we need a lot of things that this weather system is bringing here, Sam. I mean, just look at our satellite and radar here. We can see this stretching across most of southern Saskatchewan and into the central region, even heading further north into the Churchill region. Because of this has brought some tornado warnings to parts of central Saskatchewan. We're seeing this in the Rostern area, just northeast of Saskatoon, and it is possible that this could expand to more areas as we head further on into the night, because this system is moving quickly and it is heading northeast. So we'll keep on tracking any more tornado warnings that pop up. For now, we are seeing a lot of severe thunderstorm watches and warnings throughout most of south and central Saskatchewan because of this system. We've been seeing a lot of these warnings throughout most of the afternoon, and that's going to continue as we head into tonight as well. Here in Regina, we are seeing those clouds come in right now, and we could see that as we head later on into the evening. So we're going to prepare for all of this active weather. A lot of this rainfall that we're getting will be further to the southeast in areas like Moosomin. We could see around 16 millimeters of rain because of this. Now, as we mentioned, this is going to continue to head out of the province through the overnight. As we head into the midnight hours, we could just see this in the southeast. Areas to the central parts of the province will not have to deal with this as much. Heading into tomorrow, a lot of clearing, the calm after the storm. Look at all of this beautiful and calm weather that we're going to be getting on Thursday. We don't need to worry about those umbrellas. And heading into Friday, we're also going to be dealing with a lot of calm weather conditions. We just got to push through tonight, and then we'll get to enjoy that. Looking at current temperatures right now, seeing cooler temperatures up north. As we head down into south and central, we're getting a mix of everything because of this system. Over in Moose Jaw, only seeing daytime highs around 16 degrees. Here in Regina and in Saskatoon, getting closer to 30. Now, we are still dealing with those smoky conditions in the north. Because of that, we do still have air quality advisories in place. And as that smoke heads down into the south part of the province, we could see those advisories expand more. Tomorrow, we are looking at windy conditions despite the nice weather day. And heading into Friday, we are going to be dealing with those breezes a lot as well. They will be gusting between 40 and 50 kilometers an hour. Now let's take a look at our 7-day forecast here in Regina. As we mentioned, tomorrow looking like a nice calm weather day. Heading into Friday, we could see those showers make its way back in, but that will be later on in the night. And on Saturday and Sunday, if you're heading out to enjoy your weekend, you will be met with mostly calm and dry conditions as well. In Saskatoon, a very similar picture, not expecting any severe or significant weather systems to pass through. So Sam, we really just got to get through tonight.
You know what? I think we can manage that, Ty.
Yes, I think so too.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Stay with us. We've got more news after the break. Welcome back. A travel day today for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, off to Toronto to take on the Argos for the Week 12 matchup tomorrow night. It's been a tough go for the Riders the last few weeks. The team has not won a game in more than a month since they hosted the Bombers in mid-July in Week 7. Despite the losing streak, they still managed to sit at the top of the West Division at 5-4-1. To say players and coaches want to get back to winning is an understatement.
Hungry isn't the word. Famished, I think, is a better word. Thanksgiving time, and you haven't eaten since morning or lunch. But yeah, no, I think ultimately we're a hungry group of guys. We're a group of guys who likes to compete every single day.
We're itching just to kind of get it off of our back. I feel like, we don't have the feeling like we're a bad team. The confidence is still really high. We just got to find ways to get it done.
As for the matchup, the Riders beat Toronto 30-23 last time they met in early July.
Cameron Duke started in that game for suspended Chad Kelly, but Kelly will be back this week, reinstated by the league after serving 9 games for violating the CFL's gender-based violence policy. Trevor Harris will start for the Riders, and we'll have Kian Schaefer-Baker back at receiver, but Mitch Picton and AJ Ouellette are out. Kickoff tomorrow night in Toronto is at 5:30 Saskatchewan time. A Humboldt Broncos bus crash survivor is getting ready for the Paralympic Games in Paris. Jacob Wasserman was left paralyzed from the waist down, but did not lose his competitive drive. Now he's going to be representing Canada in para rowing. He and his coach spoke to the media during a training session in Regina today.
You got to be a little bit crazy, I think, to be a rower, to enjoy some of the pain that comes with it and that comes with the training and with the racing. But it's a bit of a thrill too, to be out there and on the water and doing things that I wasn't doing before I was injured. I think the big thing of all those guys, all the survivors, is we were part of that team, but everybody's so much more than just a Humboldt Bronco. I mean, that's going to be a part of us forever, and we're all very proud to be that, but we all are so much more, and they're all a group of amazing guys. They were before the crash, and now it's just everybody gets to see it. I'm not surprised that any of those guys are going on to amazing things. It's a grind out there, but that's part of the sport, and that's what any rower will tell you. That's a big part of it, and you got to kind of learn to enjoy it. The Saskatoon Rowing Club was having a have a go day, come try it for rowing, and I thought that'd be probably a really good workout, so I went to give it a try. It was the hardest workout I'd ever done, pre-injury or post, and yeah, I just sort of stuck with it, and my times were looking competitive, what my coaches were saying, and I just, like I said, happened into it, and it worked out really well. So in March, we went out to Rio just to get more experience. Like around Canada, there's not a lot of PR1 athletes, so went out there to get some racing experience. It was a Paralympic qualifier. We knew that, but there wasn't an expectation going in. I was just going out there to get some practice racing against other athletes in my same classification, and we, like I said, kind of got lucky. Things fell into place, and I ended up getting a silver out there and qualifying for Paris, and then things went kind of into overdrive, preparing, like we said, 5 years earlier than what we were ready for.
What's exciting to me, and I said this to him the other day, is he's demonstrated a capacity to achieve the speeds that we need to achieve ultimately. Now into Paris and beyond, it's about doing the work necessary to sustain those speeds. But it's exciting that he's actually shown the capacity to go as fast as we're going to need him to go.
Looking at past of what I've done in the last 2 years, like I am proud of how far I've come, but I gotta put up times and put up numbers that I'm proud of and what compared to what I've done before going in. So it's going to be a big learning experience to just move forward. I want to show up and perform, or give a performance that I'm proud of.
Oh, and we will be watching, but we will not be on the lake right now, Ty, with one last look at your weather.
Yes, we will not be, because we are still expecting that messy weather to come through Regina. We're seeing that through most of the southeast tonight. Heading into tomorrow morning, though, we are expecting mostly dry conditions. That weather system will be out through the overnight, and heading into tomorrow afternoon, those dry conditions will be sticking around with us. We'll actually be seeing that throughout most of the province tomorrow, and daytime highs will be in the mid to high 20s here in Regina. Up in Saskatoon, no rainfall tonight. A lot of that active weather in central parts of the province will move out and will just be in the southeast. Waking up tomorrow morning to dry conditions in Saskatoon, but also hazy conditions, and that will continue into tomorrow afternoon. Sam?
All right, thank you, Ty.
No problem.
And before we go, a sad note from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Grey Cup winning coach Ken Miller has died. He passed away today in North Carolina after a short battle with cancer. He was 82. We'll have more for you on Ken Miller coming up tomorrow. But for tonight, that's it for us. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.